Hello, my name is Rosemary Griebel, and one of the great gifts of my life was to be a student and to be mentored by Patrick Lane. I have a letter to Patrick in this issue of FreeFall, and I'm very grateful to the editorial board who put this together. It's an amazing issue. I'm not going to read my entire letter. Hopefully you've picked up a copy from an independent bookstore or have your own copy of the issue. But the letter begins. Dear Patrick, it is early morning, the ambrosial hours before dawn, the hours when we are a bit closer to the spirits that have passed over, and our words are amplified. This is the time when I turn to poetry, the green perfection of space, as you named it. We both loved this quiet time. You said it was when you did your best writing, and that it was a time when you were always a little afraid. The letter continues on. It talks about how I kept Patrick's meditations, his class notes, and letters from over the years dating back to 2005 when I first studied with him in Vancouver. But I'm going to read some of Patrick's words that I included because they're the most powerful. Patrick said, I had to learn by reading late into the night. I still think one of the greatest of teachers is the text itself in front of a writer who asks of it, how is this done? One of our responsibilities as artists is to pass on what we know. I believe I have, much of my creative life, shared what mystery I knew. And so the letter continues, and I talk about one of the great things that Patrick did was to teach us to be honest in our use of language and to praise the simple. Again, Patrick's words. In the end, the poem must pierce the heart. I think of the word courage with its root in the Latin for heart, not the courage of soldiers, but rather the courage to take risks with your own feelings, the necessary honesty that arrives with simplicity. No bells, no whistles, the tree before it is decorated, the tree afterwards, lying in the snow, its needles fallen. And the letter from there talks about how Patrick and I really shared an incredibly deep love of nature, and how every year, as it's happening now, when the gulls arrive on the river, I think of Patrick. And I know how much he loved the turning of the seasons. Patrick's words. You must find something you believe in. It is that necessary, that deep. Without it, you cannot write the poem, or if you do, you will quail at the heart of it all. We give ourselves up to the necessary, but always we find the apt image, the blossoms of the apricot. Yes. I last saw Patrick 4 months before he died here in Calgary. He came for the launch of Deep River Night, which WordFest put on and which I was very honored to host. That evening, Patrick and I went out for dinner. We talked about his early days growing up. We talked about him dying. And we talked about what a rich life he had, and how he was still thinking about new poems and a novel. My letter to Patrick ends. As I write this letter to you, lights are starting to come on in the houses across the street. Yet the dawn still holds the quiet of a long night. You loved silence and the act of listening. Sometimes, dear Patrick, no words say as much as silence. And I'll end with these final words from Patrick. I don't know if I've come close to answering what it is any of us should look for in a poem. Perhaps it is enough that we are looking at all. Be gentle with each other. Try to be honest. Remember the cost of what it is to make a poem at all.